So when our next guest isn't cooking up films of his own, he's actually cooking on the film and TV sets of other projects. Michael G. Cahoe is a filmmaker and craft service manager who has worked in the industry for over 35 years. From the amazing sets he has been in to his own firsthand experience producing films, we are very excited to dive in and soak up as much insight as possible. So the first question that I had, just to kind of get things in motion here, is that I saw you were born in Brooklyn before moving upstate, where you attended the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York City. Then you moved to California to pursue filmmaking. So it sounds like you've had the bug for a while, and this is something that we kind of ask everybody that's whatever they're doing. When was that interest sparked, and what sparked it?
Well, if anybody's watching this, I want you to know, the glasses are for seeing, not for, being some kind of Hollywood dick. But my mother was involved in community theater and racing. I was attending a school by the name of St. Jerome's, which is a Catholic school. And in Brooklyn, it was a very diverse area where I lived. We had all different races, all different religions and whatnot. But I was attending a Catholic school where nuns were there who were kind of brutal. And my mother would direct these shows and these plays to raise money. And I think I was around maybe 7 years old and watched her organize these things and directing people on set or on the stage there. And I knew right then and there that there was something that attracted me to that, and my mother and father were very much, very animated in their lives, very funny. My dad was kind of like Jack Nicholson, with an Archie Bunker kind of like, not a racist attitude, but that delivery, of what he had. He was very funny. My mom was extremely talented as far as that goes, and she loved film. And I think that's the reason why I got into it at an extremely early age.
Awesome. Let me ask you this: what's the best piece of information you got coming out of art school like that? I mean, what is that knowledge? What is that? What do you take with you from an experience like that?
What I got out of it was learning the language of an actor. That was important because as a filmmaker, you either know everything about the human element and nothing about camera and the crew, or everything about camera and crew and nothing about the human element. And so my language or my communication with the actors, because of my education from the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, it actually enhanced the moments, on film behind camera. I wasn't trying to like search for the things to do because I knew, I get the feeling of being on stage back, behind the curtains, talking like an actor would talk and, communicating with that. Not until I really started working with Cameron Crowe and watching him. I started with Jerry Maguire, and watching him on set. He used to play music to immerse the actors in that sense and that feel, and I stole that from him, in some moments of what we do, but it really helped. It helped the actor, it helped the crew, and so the education from the American Academy of Dramatic Arts helped me in that sense to communicate with actors.
So when you moved to California, that's always it's an interesting thing to me because that's like for anybody that's not born in California, that's an aspiring filmmaker or actor or actress, to make that move is kind of like the passing through the gates where you're either going to fall on the other side or get up and keep getting up, and like that's like the great proclamation, like I'm going for it, I'm going all in. What was that transition like for you, or were there any hurdles when you first moved?
When I was in high school, I'd been in a number of plays as an actor, and then I wanted to direct a play, and this is what was starting to motivate me. I directed One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and played McMurphy, and what I did was, and I didn't know what a producer did. So what I did was we were getting the auditorium for 3 hours, which is not a lot of time to build sets and do things. So the janitor during the course of the day had the keys to the auditorium, and I knew him, and I knew when he took a break, he didn't want anybody to bother him during that time. And I asked him if I could borrow the keys to get in there. I left something in there, which I didn't. And I got the keys. I got in my car and I drove to this lumber place called Mills Paws Lumber in this little town. And I got the guy to make me a copy of the key. Drove back, gave the janitor the key, and I was able to go into the auditorium with my friend, who, mind you, had one hand because he blew off his other hand from fireworks. So I had a one-handed set dresser and set builder, and me. We were there for 3 hours. We said goodbye. They closed the doors. We went in the parking lot, waited, and then came back in an hour later and stayed there till around 11 o'clock, building the set and getting things together. So I knew that I had the, that yearning for it. When I moved to California and made that decision, I didn't know a soul. But since I had that drive, of I'm not going to give up, I'm not going to surrender. I was a bartender through college, and I said, I'll just get I'll get a bartending job. I got that, and I met this guy who's a writer, but he was before he was a writer, he was an accountant, and he was working on a movie, and we became like brothers. And he would come to the bar and hang out with me, and I said, I got to get out of here, man. I don't want to be doing this. I want to be a filmmaker. And he said, I'm going to get you out of here. And about a month later, he came back. He said, listen, I got a job. It's a PA job, but it's on a show if you want to go. And I'm still working on my, on my film. I said, yeah. The job I got turned out to be Sylvester Stallone's assistant on Rocky IV in the, during the time of his training prior to that. So I got to meet Dolph and Carl Weathers and then Kevin, his name is Kevin Elders. He called me and said, listen, I'm pulling you out of that job. I said, why? He said, we got the deal for our movie. And I said, great. And he says, we're going to go to Israel as well. So get your passport. And that movie turned out to be Iron Eagle. So while I was there, there's a little scene. They said, we need an actor for this that, doesn't have an Israeli accent. And they said, hey, give it to Mikey, because that's what they called me during that time. And I did this scene with Lou Gossett and Jason Gedrick. And, that started getting into it. When I came back and we shot some sequences here in the United States, there was a craft service guy. I didn't know what craft service did, but I found out later on what they do was they're a utility person. So if the sound people needed, a cable guy or set dressers needed someone, that was who they called. It was nothing to do with food. That's why there's a lot of people, make that mistake. So I called my brother and I told my brother, I said, look, there's this job. This guy just got fired. You can take it. He says, what is it? And I said, it's called craft service. You just, clean up the set and put some snacks out, whatever. Well, he came and he literally turned it upside down and built the first truck and became the king of it. And while I was, working and writing, and I did a short film called Second Dance that went to Sundance, which there's a whole story behind that. And my brother said, look, you gotta make some money and take care of yourself. Why don't you come work with me? And I ended up getting the Velvet Handcuffs for a number of years, working with some top talent. So
I know when we talked the other night, you had mentioned like when you're talking about how like you got the key made so you can get the extra time to have the time you needed. Like you're presented with a problem, and where most people would say, well, that's the end of the story. You figure out a way around it to make the goal, like whatever is need. Like that's the kind of relentlessness that's needed to make it in the industry or to make a movie. And I remember when we were talking, you had talked about how a cast member of a production you were working on had to pull out the night before, and you got it recast that evening for the very next day, where I feel like most people would be like, well, we're going to have to reschedule the shoot. Mm-hmm. Right. So it's neat to hear how even in the beginning of your career, you had that same mentality where just whatever it takes.
That actually didn't happen in the beginning. Actually, ironically, the same exact thing happened when I did the movie Second Dance. I was working for a producer on the Hollywood lot, and there was a little empty office, and nobody was in it. It was like kind of a little corner thing, and there was a payphone outside. So I was putting together this short film called Second Dance, and I used that as my office. And when the phone rang, because I took, I'd run outside, I'd grab this payphone and talk. And I wanted to get these two kids. I wanted them to look completely, different, a contrast between them, because I wanted to represent society. So I got this little towhead blonde kid and this other kid who was black, who the two of them were so incredibly talented. And Theodore Borders, who was the young black boy, we were discussing the character, and I got a phone call. They were 11 years old. I got a phone call the night prior from his mother, and she said, "Michael, I hate to tell you this, but Theodore broke his arm. He was on an MTV music video." And I said, so the producer in me said, "Okay, can we take the cast off, to do this?" And she said, "No, not at all." And then the writer director came in and said, "Make it work." So I don't want to tell you, you have to see it, but there's a moment in there where I actually used the cast on his arm to take a moment to give this this curve in the story, and it worked out incredibly, perfect for that moment. Then when I finished it, I tried to submit it to Sundance, and it didn't make it, and because it was too late. And I screened it at Sony Studios in a 50 seat, or I think it was 99 seat theater, and there was like 500 people that showed up. So I kept having to screen it. And the projectionist, this woman said, "Have you submitted this to Sundance?" And I said, "I didn't make it." She said, "Well, John Cooper, who's in charge of the shorts program, who's now in charge of the entire festival, he's going to be here looking at it. Why don't you leave it with me?" And it was a 35 millimeter print, which we cut on a Moviola. And I said, "Oh my God, it's like giving your child away." So I said, "Okay." Film came back about 2 weeks later, and I had my dog with me, and I got the letters in the mail, and I saw Sundance, and I said, "Rejection letter," just like I got from some colleges, And then I opened it up, and they said, "Congratulations, you're going to Sundance."
Wow.
So, and then years later, when I did Hush, there was this guy sitting in the theater staring at me, and it felt really weird. And then he came up to me, and it turned out to be Theodore Borders, the little kid that broke his arm on the short years later. So,
Oh, man.
full circle. Yeah, we cried, we hugged each other, and it was it's quite a moment.
Awesome. Now you mentioned Sundance, and of course we all know the ups and downs of submitting stuff and having it rejected. And could you tell us what it's like, that experience? Because it's like you said, giving away your baby. You mentioned that before. I know what it's like to personally pen something and you get it, and it's just, and then to have someone else say it's good enough to be accepted. What was that experience like, man?
Yeah, well, especially because Second Dance was your first film, right?
Yeah, my very first film. Yeah.
Yeah, that's just amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't know. I mean, the good thing about it is it's, the lack of knowledge of what goes on, in the world. I think that you're being naive sometimes actually helps you, and you could just say, "I don't care, I'm going for it," no matter what the dangers are, or the downfall. And when I got there, I was like, I was like a kid in a candy store, but I didn't know anybody. I didn't know anything that was going on, or what would happen. And it's kind of like going to orientation in college, and they would have a little box for you, for your mail, because this was pre, the internet, as far as like, cell phones and whatnot. And I would go in and check in, and I did make the mistake. The movie, the short film was 17 minutes, and that what ended up happening with that, it didn't play with the other short films. It actually played prior to a feature. So I, realized everybody that's going to see this feature is going to see that film, but nobody's going to see the short films to, to enjoy that is going to see this. I did, however, Variety and the Hollywood Reporter did a couple of articles on me about getting in there, cutting into Sundance and doing that, which was helpful. And then while I was there, I wrote a script called, it was kind of an action adventure, and I wanted to just sell it. I didn't want to direct it or anything like that, because I wanted to take the time to move it. And while I was there, I got approached by a company called Prism Entertainment, and they asked me if I had anything, and I told them, yeah, I had this script and I'd like to, to unload it, so to speak. And they said, great, we would like you to direct it. And it was from that, it was my first film, which was I think $1.3 million to go off and do. So it was a great opportunity. Turned out my DP, I think I mentioned to you before, was Mauro Fiore, who had not been a DP yet, and he won the Academy Award for Avatar years later. You think that you're going to, people say, all you got to do is get that one movie, and if you've made it.
Yeah.
They're full of
There we go.
Yeah.
yeah, you gotta keep going. You can't give up. You've gotta just pursue your dream every day.
Yeah.
They need to bring him to career day and talk to all the kids. I mean, they need to hear this stuff, man. Seriously, man, that's crazy.
Relentlessness, ability to improvise.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I had this question later on in the notes here, but since you brought up Avatar, I saw Avatar 2 in your credits. Of course, it piqued my curiosity. Is there anything that you can tell us about that production, or is that all hush hush?
I can't tell you anything about the story or what was going on. I can tell you what happened to me. Mark Brown, who's a very close friend of mine, and his wife, who I got his wife in to be my still photographer. We've known each other for a long time. And Mark, who did the behind the scenes on a lot of the stuff for me, he's a DP for for behind the scenes and video shoots. And he was hired as the motion capture DP on that. And he called me up and he said to me, "Hey, do you want to come in and operate motion capture on this movie I'm working on?" I said, "No, at first I'm thinking, no, what is it?" And he says, "It's Avatar." And I said, "I'm there." So I wanted to, experience firsthand James Cameron and how he was, and he's brilliant. There's nothing that he doesn't know, and there's this intimidation factor that goes along with working for him, because when he walks in the room, he's very unassuming in that sense, but his knowledge of film and as well as actors and the sensitivity of actors is just mind blowing, for me. And so I get this camera. There's no focus puller, so I had to pull my own focus. Now I'm nervous, and there's these two monitors, and they have the virtual world of what he would see and you'd see in the movie, and then they have this monitor with all these little squares. And I had this sequence where they said "be cowboy" on one of the actors, and I timed it. I watched it. It was 3 minutes at least, and then but during the 3 minutes, the actor walked off. And so I said, well, as a filmmaker, what I would do is I would pick up another actor to give you more for that. Big mistake. So when they said cut, Cameron was up, 6 inches from the monitor, and he's looking. He says, "Why is Kehoe on this? On Sigourney Weaver?" And all the guys that would, there's 12 of us. They all parted like the Red Sea, leaving me there, and I'm backing up. And I said, "What?" And Mark came over to me and said, "Dude, what did you do that for?" And I said, "I just, Sam walked off, and what was I going to shoot, the floor and the ceiling? I just went on to her." And he went over and told James, and instead of Jim saying, "Okay, great," he just went on to the next one and said, "What's going on here? What's going on there?" So his mind is always working. He's not, he's into what's happening. He wants to fix it right away,
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't take offense to it, but I learned a great lesson, of, don't do something that you're not really comfortable with, especially on that level, But it was an incredible experience to see him work. I'm extremely impressed with his abilities and his sensitivity.
Yeah, I could not imagine the scale, like experiencing a production to that scale, to the degree that he works. It's just I couldn't even fathom it. Watching the behind the scenes. So, looking through your credits, both as an actor and in craft service, we noticed quite a few Tom Cruise projects, from Jerry Maguire to the Mission Impossibles to Vanilla Sky. Is there, like, from an outsider's perspective, it seems like Tom Cruise is like personally vetting you on everything he does. But is there a story there beyond that, or is it just you being awesome at what you do, and
Well, I mean, I don't consider myself awesome at what I do, but I mean, there's on this job, it's kind of like a a restaurant that has they specialize in one thing. So you would go to an Italian restaurant for this or a Japanese restaurant for that, and that I think is what goes on with craft service from these guys. So when I did Jerry Maguire, I got the job uh, through a producer and some friends of mine, and I guess we did okay, and the producer who was on the next show saw that I worked there, and that's how I ended up going in and doing that, and that's how I ended up working with Cameron Crowe as well. So I went from that film, Jerry Maguire, to Vanilla Sky, to Almost Famous, and and then stuck with Tom through the years with Mission Impossible, and I was never in his contract. Everybody was saying, "Oh yeah, Kehoe's and that's why he's getting the job." Not true. I would show up in Dubai, and he said, "Who is Kehoe? He's like, where's Waldo?" He shows up, and you find him. So it's when you're putting together a film as a producer, you want to surround your actors and their crew with people that are familiar, that are not going to get awestruck or screw up or try to interview somebody and say, "Hey, I heard you did this," or "I heard what's going on." I never got involved in that. You know,
Mhm.
I was, like I said, I was fortunate to work on Collateral and travel around the world, to go to Japan and China, on those other films. But he was always good to me. Um, if I had an opportunity, I would do it again. But also, what what brought me in there was my good friend Tommy Harper, and Tommy Harper started out as a PA, and then worked his way up as an AD, production manager, and eventually he was running Bad Robot, and then broke off, and he just produced a little movie called Top Gun, which
Hmm.
is coming out. So, but he was close with Tom, and Tom loves him, because Tommy gets it done and knows what has to be, what has to come forward for the film itself. So it's because of those people that I get the job, that comes up. If something pops up, it's somebody like that hires me.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about Vanilla Sky. Of course, that's mainly what this episode is about. The first thing that stood out to me was that the fact that you did the craft service work on the film that went uncredited, at least in the scrolling credits. But then you also play a chef on screen, which you were credited for. Like, how did that come to be?
It was Cameron, and they would say, while I was on the set, and I was always around. I was always watching, Cameron from the sides or whatever, and watching him communicate. And I had been in Jerry Maguire with a small scene with Cuba Gooding and Tom that they put me in. So he knew that I guess I could act, but I didn't go around telling people, "Hey, I'm an actor. I'm in SAG. I did this. I've done that." It just came out, and so Cameron said, "Get Mikey. Tell him to come over here. There's a kitchen sequence here. Tom comes in, and we'll have him in there." It was, if you blinked, you'd miss, the moment, which is what it is. But it was that's basically how it happened. It was just that moment. They had things going on and pointed to me and said, "Go get him, send him to wardrobe," and then it happened.
Is there ever like, well, I know there's a degree of professionalism that you have to keep, and and it's just like, so it's kind of normalized where uh you're on all these sets a lot of the times. But when like something like that happens where Cameron Crowe is just like, can you jump in front of the camera? Is there like a part of you that's like, oh God, I'm now in a Cameron Crowe film, like just like that, or is it just like a normal day at the job, like, oh, this, I'm, instead of doing this, I'm doing that, no big deal.
I think what happens is you have these modes, you shift, and because of my education and everything else, it shifted. I do get that feeling, but it's not until afterwards. So if I'm on set, and they say, "Hey, can you do this?" Yeah, I'll do it. Then I go in, I start thinking about, okay, my acting ability, or what would I do in this, and then taking, the direction and finding out what's going on. It's very intimidating when you have to hit your mark. You have to make sure that you're not moving around, because the focus puller is your best friend. If your actors do this, sometimes when they're in a scene, and that's the hardest thing in the world. So with that in mind, I said, okay, I'll do this, I'll do that. And then I make my decisions on it, but I listened to what Cameron had said. After it was over, I would go in and I'd go out and they'd say, "You were in that?" And I'd say, "Oh shit, yeah, I was." Yeah. So yeah, the celebration always comes afterwards, but working with actors sometimes is a real treat, and you get, you're awestruck. It did happen to me one time on a movie called Art School Confidential, and Anne Bancroft was there, and I had to say something to her, and she's married to Mel Brooks, and I remember watching The Graduate, and I said to her, I've got to say this to you. And she's looking at me, and I said, because of you, I got my first erection. And that was from The Graduate, with her being that way. Cause I was a little kid watching it, and I said, "Holy shit," and she laughed, was very, felt like it was an incredible compliment, and, just, I didn't want to hold back. And then, she smiled and always, waved to me during the course of the day. She was there for about a week, maybe. But even on Vanilla Sky, working with, Kurt Russell was remarkable. Watching him, and Michael Shannon, who was in it as well. He was amazing. Nobody knew him on the set. They didn't know what was going on. And I watched him, and I'm thinking to myself, I didn't know who he was at first, and I thought, this guy's like gotta be stage trained the way he is in doing it. And sure enough, he was.
Speaking of underrated actors, I was going to say this. There's different levels of actors, of course. There's what some people consider D-list, C-list, B-list, and even the ones that we really feel that really entertain us. Those are like the top-notch actors. But then there's the Mount Rushmores, the megastars, the icons, and the almost mythical godlike features. So when you work with someone, Tom Cruise is obviously at that status. He checks off all the boxes. How do they say it? The women want to be with him and the men want to be him. And with that being said, let me ask you this. What was it like to work with him, to be a co-worker of his, even if it's just for a split second? You were there, you've been in his films. What's it like to work with someone with a persona like that?
When I was doing Jerry Maguire, we were in Arizona, and there was a moment when Tom had left and had to go to his trailer, and he said, "Come on." And in front of all these people, the crew and people in the stands, I ran with him across the field. It was the first time that I was with him. And that was a moment of saying, "Oh shit," we, talked, and you felt that. But the thing about Tom is he's really concerned about, what's going on with the movie. So you have this air of this royalty around the set and what's going on with, with that. But then when he gets in front of the camera, it changes. He's one of the team. So, but there's a lot of actors that are like that as well. There's people that I have immense respect for, and then you see people that are not that way, that have no clue and are the same on screen as they are off screen, But there's so many levels of actors, and sometimes I don't really put them in that A level or B level. It's just, to me, what it is the quality of their acting that that impresses you. So yeah, I do get affected when I'm on set with certain actors. Tom Hanks, I did some of the motion capture for Polar Express, but he's a regular guy. I'm great friends with Michael Keaton. Nobody better. Going to dinner with him and hang out with him. He's the salt of the earth.
I want to talk about Tom Cruise, the producer. I was interested what your thoughts were on. He made the headlines recently with going, I would say, just letting his employees have it about the not following COVID protocols on set. Just curious what your thoughts are on that.
I mean, look, everybody has an opinion about it. Um, people say I would have done it differently, or people say good for him. Um, if something happened with someone on set with me, I'd pull him to the side. But the excuse could be that he's invested in this, financially. He's invested in this, because it's his film. Is he helping people out working? Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people employed for that. But I think that if he stepped back and said I could have done this differently, I'm sure he would. But nobody's perfect,
Right.
nobody's. So I don't blame him for that. I just everybody has their opinion on it.
Yeah.
So
When I saw it, I just kind of took it with a grain of salt that he is a performer. So even when he's doing something that he feel that he's genuine about, he's still a performer at heart. So you're gonna get all of it. He's gonna bring it to life in the best way he can.
he's under the microscope with everyone because of your celebrity and where you are, on that level. Everybody's going to nitpick about every little thing that you do. If you have a straw and you go to talk and it hits you on the side, right away they're going to say, hey, I think he's had a stroke. Look what he's doing. It happens to us all the time. Nobody calls that out.
Yeah.
So
Well, and breaking the protocol could get the whole set shut down, then everybody's out of the job until
Right.
they say so.
yeah. COVID. My son's fourth grade teacher just died, and he was young. He had it for 10 days, and he died. So anyone that thinks that this is a hoax, to me, is a complete fool. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty
So
in your face for sure. The
yeah.
I was curious with you being a native to New York, and living and working in California. It seems like those two states have the strictest measures in place as far as lockdowns and just protocols for being safe with this. And so with you working in California, I was just curious how that if that has impacted your work at all and what you do.
Yeah, it does. When we did 99 Problems, I made sure. I have a friend of mine who's a medic that I've worked with on a number of different shows, and I made sure that we were following all the protocols for COVID, and made sure that when we're on set, there are different color coordinated groups. That if you're dealing with an actor, you're in this group. If you're not, you're in group B, and then group C is outside. So we didn't have a problem at all, because we were all, we had a safety meeting prior. We sat and we talked with people when we went out to scout. We did the same thing. So all that prep, I think, takes on a responsibility for the filmmaker, because I would be the one that would get blamed for it, being the writer, the director, and the producer. And so I don't know. Nothing ever happened. So being the producer and the director, as well as the writer, if somebody did something, would I lash out at them? I don't know. I was pretty stressed out on set, trying to make the day. And we had like an 8-hour day of shooting. So
Yeah.
the pressure was on. So yeah, but in California, there are people who go into a supermarket for maybe only 10 or 15 minutes and refuse to wear a mask. Meanwhile, here we are working in the film industry, wearing it for 14 hours straight,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
knock on wood, we've been safe so far.
Thinking about Tom Cruise more about what happened with that incident, you also have to consider that this is a Mission Impossible set, so who knows what he was mentally and physically prepared for that day. Like
Right.
he could have been mentally preparing himself to skydive into a volcano, and
Right.
who knows what
Right.
stunt.
He's in character. He's
And then
method,
he's
man.
confronted with that. Yeah.
Let, let me
Go
ask
ahead.
you. Let me ask you a question. Now, of course, you've seen the film. You're in the film, and like you say, we watch these things. What was your favorite scene from Vanilla Sky? It's visually appeasing. So, what was your favorite scene from it?
I think it was the revelation that with Tom and the face. And I, like I said, I watched Cameron do that, and I never expected some of those moments in there. But Tom was pretty remarkable, in those moments there. And I I was on set for when that was going on. In fact, afterwards, I stole. Well, I didn't steal. In the trash, they had thrown away these. I still have them. These little Polaroid shots of the mask and that. And I said, I'm going to keep these, and maybe someday I'll show them to somebody or give them my kids for whatever. But they were in the trash. So, what am I going to, what am I going to do? I said, well, nobody's going to want these, That's one of the moments of seeing Tom on a different level and watching that. And like, when I mentioned Kurt Russell as well, you all of a sudden you started thinking, is this a dream or is it real? And I was confused throughout the whole time because I don't read the script when the crew gets it, because I want to be, I want to sit and watch it in the theater and understand, the story that way. And I was on so many different levels with all of the actors. I was extremely impressed.
If you had to land on one theory, like at the end of the day, what would you say is happening? Like, more specifically, what do you think the ending means that he hears Sophia's voice before he opens his eyes again?
It's when I thought about it being a dream, I also thought about it being death, and I wanted to leave it that way with me. I didn't want to try to try to analyze it in such a way and come up with an answer. So I love films, and it's why I'm inspired that go one way and then take a sharp curve. And with this, it was almost going to the edge of a cliff. And do you jump or do you not jump? What is it? What is the answer? And that's how I left it with me. I was extremely, confused in the beginning, and then I kept saying, "Wow, you can make your own decision on where this goes."
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's yeah.
That's good.
I agree.
We said it this earlier. If you have to keep discussing it and talking about it, then the film's done its job. That's what film is.
Right.
Open to interpretation, and we should be able to have those discussions.
Right.
And everybody does have a different interpretation.
What was that set like, man? Because with me and him, we always say when we're doing a film, we want to be on a set where, number one, we hold everybody accountable. But again, we don't like to belittle people or demean people. So we just really like nice sets to where we can get the job done. So what was that set like with all these different people and talents on set?
It was a controlled atmosphere when we were ready to go, and I think Cameron, who really controlled the set, had everything in place for it. And so when you walked in there, prior to the actors coming in, there's chaos, and it's controlled chaos in that sense. And then as soon as the actors come in and people stop and they're ready to work, you're watching magic. That's how I look at it. To me, it's magic. And all of a sudden someone is speaking, and there's something going on in the communication, and then someone else, and you get lost in that if you're just taking for the moment to see that. Some people say, oh yeah, there's Kurt Russell, and he's talking, and they're thinking, yeah, I saw him in The Thing, and I saw him in this, and then they're not getting it. But sometimes what I'll do is I'll watch the set of what was going on, and then I watched Cameron at the monitor and how he was sometimes, speaking the words that the actor was speaking, whispering it, or, mouthing those words, and then leaning in and watching what was going on, almost as if he knew what he was going to do in the next take to move the camera. And so to me, that was, I just take it differently than some people. And some people take it the same way, but it's such a wonderful experience seeing a director like that communicate with the actors and the magic that goes on the other side.
Is there a particular memory that stands out from the time on that production? Yeah,
it was in the interrogation room, which stands out to me because I like dark films, and I like dark sets. So when I went on the set itself, I remember thinking, wow, I love this set. During those moments when the actors were in there, it had a whole different feel. It's kind of like you have this empty glass and you like the glass, and all of a sudden the liquid that goes into it is, the sparkle, the bubbles, all these things that are, that are inside of, give this feeling that you have. And then the taste of it, of watching it, is spectacular, and I don't know why every time somebody says to me, what did you think of Vanilla Sky? Boom, I go right to the interrogation room.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, because you mentioned this and that you brought this up earlier, as far as when people don't really know what craft services are, and people usually think it's just about food. But you,
I'm gonna correct. Because he corrected me on the phone. It's craft service, not craft services. Never plural.
never plural.
Yeah.
Oh, like sheep.
Yeah.
They're sheeps. Okay, so thank you for that. I appreciate. See, he's doing your job now. So thank you. So
Right.
oh, and in fairness, when he wrote the question, there still is an S on the services. I just want to make sure. So you managed craft service for so many fantastic films. I mean, getting your start in '88, if I'm not mistaken, with Poltergeist 3, you brought that up, and most recently with The Mandalorian. For all my Trekkie fans out there. So let me ask you this.
Did you just say Trekkie?
I know.
Okay.
I'm doing that for the
Okay.
clickbait.
Okay.
I know what I'm doing. Guys, I got you out there. Oh my goodness. I got it. All right. So let me ask you a question. What truly, you brought it up earlier saying someone was like, hey man, you got to take care of yourself. But what really got you in the direction of doing, because you stuck with it and it seems to be your niche. And what lent you in that direction?
It's kind of like what Al Pacino said in The Godfather. Once you think you're out, they pull you right back in. And I was, I'm doing all I can. You got to pay the bills. I have twin sons that are 18 years old, and I got to pay the bills. And as an independent filmmaker, you may make a film one year. It may take 2 years to get the next one off the ground because you're not in control of that. So, I'm so fortunate to get a phone call. I always think, God, I'm going to finish this movie. What am I going to do next? I have nothing. I got to write. And then I get a phone call from somebody say, hey, I know you're not doing this anymore, but you want to come out here and play? Absolutely. So that happens. I mean, I had a friend of mine call me up and say, listen, you want to go on this movie? We're going to, oh no, he called me up and he said, listen, we're having a hard time on this movie. And I need somebody to oversee this stuff and come out and do it. And I said, yeah, sure. He says, well, it's in Budapest. I said, oh, I've never been. Great. And he said, it's on Blade Runner. And I said, oh my God, what a dream. I work with Harrison Ford, and then going with Harrison Ford from that on to Call of the Wild, and also working with him on some of the because I worked on a couple of the Star Wars films at Bad Robot, and, seeing him there, we, got a little bit of a rapport. So, I'm not trying to pursue it because I'm pursuing this other career, that I've always been chasing. And, but I'm so lucky that somebody would call me and say, hey, come here and do this. And I've got to take the time. But that again goes back to saying, I've got the velvet handcuffs, because what am I going to do? And I got to pay the bills.
Right. I just think it's neat that whenever you have to supplement income or do something, you still get to go back on set. And I listened to something you said earlier, which I've always done. When I've been an actor for years, but when I go on set, what I do is I want to know what everybody's doing. I want to build that rapport and that relationship, because I think of it this way, that being an actor, I look at it this way. I carry my golf club, and in the film industry, you need to be able. You can't play the whole golf course with just one club. You got to be able to keep it moving, work on your short game, go to the sandbox, and then we'll get some eagles and some birdies later. So I love what you're doing with that, man.
Right. But, I think you also have to say, you have to have that attitude of never give up, never surrender. No matter what, doesn't matter how old you are, doesn't matter, where you are in life. You just, if you have that dream, you pursue it. And I also love, somebody gave me a leg up. So I always try to pay it forward. If somebody, comes in and says, hey, I got a dream, I'm not one to say, well, talk to me, when you've got something going. I always say, let me try to lead you in the right direction. I speak once in a while at a college back in upstate New York when I go back, and we talk about that. But you also hear, there are people that condemn you and saying, well, he's a craft service guy. What do you mean? What are you talking about? Director, what? And then when they find out, because people don't know the past. I think I mentioned to you off the show, I directed this short film called Hush, which was a little horror film. and then I directed the feature, which was called The Hatred. And I got blamed for stealing from my short film. Somebody thought it was two different directors. They say, yeah, that director, he stole that from this short film. Nobody does research anymore.
Yeah.
We do.
Yeah, we
we
do.
do. We do our research. Yeah. That you know what? That's the greatest compliment ever. To be accused of stealing your own. I got to get on your level, man. I got to keep writing. I got to get out there. So I need somebody to accuse me of stealing something of mine.
I have a few more questions about the craft service side. So you talked about you got your brother into it, and are you guys partners at this point, or are you on separate projects, just doing your own thing in the same industry?
No, my brother is anything he touches turns to gold, in that sense. He started that. He bought bought a bunch of land in upstate New York and built a resort. He has that going, but he still continues about having dreams. I want to help him. Actually put him in I put him in two of my films. But he didn't have the dream to be an actor. But something about craft service that really, what it was a door that opened for me to get relationships. When I worked on Enemy of the State and a bunch of other films, yeah. Well, Tony Scott is my hero, but I met this guy, and his name is Johnny Martin, who's a stunt guy. We actually talked, when I was doing Vanilla Sky, because he wanted to come to the set. But I said, we've got to do something. I wrote a script called Judge Not. And I said, going back to what I said earlier about not wanting to direct something, I said, this is dark, and I want to give it to somebody that can handle it. Johnny directed Hangman with Al Pacino and a few other films. And I called him up and said, look, I got this script, if you want it. And we only had the relationship that was, through craft service. But Johnny never, ever, ever thought of me as being a one-level guy, of being just craft service. He saw that when he saw me on set, and he'd come in, he'd work on a movie, and he was doing stunts because he was directing as well. Embraced me and said, hey, dude, what's going on? How's your career? What's going on with your career? Well, I wrote Judge Not, and then he took it to this company called Pink Jaguars, which is a company from India, where there's a producer called Survana Papu, and there's a prince. If I get his name wrong, you'll have to forgive me. It's Jagadish Dinetti, I think it is, Dinetti. And they picked it up, and they want to make the film with Johnny directing. But it was all because of craft service that fed the line through there. And so I never think of it to be below me. And if it wasn't for that, for the time that I spent with Cameron Crowe and doing Vanilla Sky and also Almost Famous, meeting rock royalty on that film, which was remarkable, doing it. If I never did that, I don't think that these other opportunities would ever come up.
If you don't mind, if I could send him the link for 99 Problems.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You gave me the opportunity to see the treatment for that, and I'm immediately hooked. Like, this is a show that I would binge. I hopefully will binge eventually soon. And before I even saw it, I saw the conceptual artwork for it on your Facebook page, and that in itself piqued my interest. So could you tell the audience a little bit about that project?
Yeah, well, the concept, the way the concept came out was, once again, it was me trying to pay forward to someone. And this, the woman who plays the waitress in it, we've been friends for a while. She came over to my house. She said, look, I'm looking for something to do. I came up with this, and we were pitching back and forth these ideas. And I said, I like the Twilight Zone stuff. And I said, I would want to do, and I started coming up with these ideas. And then she would kind of go off, and I would bring her back on. And then, boom, it hit. And I said, this is what it is. She says, okay, so let's do it. I said, what do you mean, let's do it? She said, let's go make it. And I said, okay, so what it will be is, it should have to be a series if we're going to do that. And she said, okay. And I mapped it out. I had to give it, some origin of it, of where it came out. So nobody knows the origin. And then I had to give, what happens afterwards. And literally the scene that you saw would be episode 5.
Oh,
So,
wow.
you're coming into it. And so I wrote it. And what I wanted to do is as I was writing, I wanted to see the location, because sometimes what happens is I listen to music and I go to a location and I come up with the ideas for scenes. And I I ended up making some phone calls to some actor friends of mine. I called up a few actors, and everybody was on board. And I said, "Look, we're going to do this little thing." I called up a good actor friend of mine who was in. I think I told you he was in Battle Los Angeles and The Outpost, and he reminded me of Will Smith, and it's the character that I wanted, for that. And then at the last second, right before we started, the night before we started shooting, he told me that his wife, who's good friends with the actress from Glee, who drowned, he said, I can't do this. And I said, we're shooting tomorrow. And so I made a phone call to a friend of mine who was an actor that I would have coffee with. And I called him up and I said, his name is Richard Leacock. I said, Rich, I gotta see you. He came over to my house right away. I told him what was going on. He says, yeah, I'm in. I'll help you out. When are you going to do this? He thought it was in a month. I said, it's tomorrow morning. Learn the lines. And he got it. He got into it. He did a great job. We, I when I talked to my DP, I said, first, I want to shoot this anamorphic. I want to have it widescreen, but I want the camera constantly to be on a crane. I don't want, I want it to move. I want to have this flow, this flow that you feel like you're going into it, and you're discovering the story, and give it more of a mystical feel, but not mystical in the sense where it's fantasy, and we did it. The hard part was we only had 8 hours to shoot each day because we had to be in and out of there. We weren't allowed to be on the property prior to our call time. It would take a couple of hours to set up, and then a couple hours to turn it down. And so I was really, I was just under the gun, man. It was
Gone are the days of waiting an hour and coming back afterwards and then filming stuff again. Yeah, gone are those days now.
and I'll tell you, going back with that about a craft service is because of COVID. I got to tell you, and I don't mean to say this in such a way that COVID is great, but the change in the business was a blessing for craft service, because now it used to be where we need to set up over there, we need to set up over there, we need 2 coolers over there, and and then you don't have enough guys to go do that, so you're running your ass off around. Now, because of COVID, you're under a tent and they come to you. They can't be touching anything, which I think is brilliant the way it should be, because we're really making a movie. We're not,
Right.
out there passing out, burritos and these, parfaits and crap, So,
Yeah.
so on my set, I said, I had a friend of mine who I worked with, did the craft service. And I said, just set it up an intent, put, tape, caution tape around it, and we'll get it done. And, we didn't have a caterer. We had food came out, and this guy took care of that. So I think that's the way it's going. But that saved us, because when you break for lunch, you leave. It's if you break at 12, they start counting the time after the last man is there. So if the last man doesn't get there until 20 after 12, now you've got that half hour going. It's not 12 to 12:30. It's whatever time the last man went out. And then by the time you get on there's another half hour. So you've lost an hour and a half of shooting.
Before we moved away from 99 Problems, I just wanted to ask if there was any, if what's on the horizon, if there's anything you could speak on as far as any prospects of us being able to see that fleshed out into a full series in the future.
That I have a couple of meetings this coming week about that, but we did get picked up for a company, by a company, for the little piece that I sent you, the proof of concept for Quest of Queens.
Okay.
So that's a company called iProduce, which is IPRODOOS. And I think it's iProduce.com. And the founder for that, his name is Alex Riggs Miller, and the CEO is Sherry Jonath. So we are planning on going late spring, early summer for that. And at the same time, I'm trying to push. I would love to get the 99 Problems through Netflix, or get it to Netflix. So we've got a couple of opportunities that we're going to try to present. We'll see what happens.
It feels like a show that you could binge on Netflix. It also has the vibe of a good HBO show, like one of the the original programming on HBO. It has that quality to it for sure.
I do have to go in for the origin, of it, and get get the story involved. But I wanted to start it out where people say, "Where's this?" All of a sudden, it's kind of like being dropped into a situation, and everybody has a relationship, but you don't know what it is, and you have to find out, and then you discover what the origin of the story is, and where it's from. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a baby of mine. I actually love it. I want to do that because of my sorry about that. My
No
whole
problem.
thing about the Twilight Zone, and see if I can have some sort of impact on that.
Now, I've heard you mention the Twilight Zone, and I've heard you say go dark and things of that nature. Is there a particular genre you're drawn into writing to, or do you? I mean, what really inspires you?
I like thrillers. I like thrillers that take you to the edge. I do like that. If it's an action thriller, I like that. If I had a choice to go, to go to a movie, it would probably be a thriller. However, I never wrote a horror film until I did, Hush and The Hatred, which, Hush ended up winning a bunch of awards. But then again, I think the scripts that I've written are like my children,
Mm.
and I love them all. I have a passion for each of them, and I would never say to one child that I like this other child better, but the thrillers are what get me going, the action thrillers. That's why I loved Enemy of the State. Um, I love Vanilla Sky. Is I thought that The Thing, which is one of my favorite films, was more
Mm.
thriller than a horror film. You know,
Yeah.
and I think that I lean towards that more so than anything else.
I like it.
We kind of got into this on the phone. I just wanted to elaborate on a little more because I think it's a very important point for people that are aspiring to get into the film community to understand. The dynamic that you have of being a writer director, the at the helm of your own projects, and then there's the other side where you are with the craft service or other jobs on production where you are serving the vision of somebody else essentially. And I just think there's a good lesson there in keeping your ego in check. So I'm curious about how you navigate that, and also just the analytical side because you are a writer and a director, so that doesn't just shut off automatically just because that's not your title for today. Like
Hmm.
you're still probably seeing potential shots that could be being missed on some occasions or things like that. So I was curious how you navigate those two worlds.
Well, when I'm not working, on a film, and I'm writing, um, there's like a small descend into like darkness where there's nothing going on. There's nothing to inspire that. And what
Yeah.
inspires that was when I go into a movie theater, and I love the moment of when it's dark and the lights come up and you watch the theater. Then I start getting inspired again about making a movie. And then when I go on a set and I'm doing craft service, the same exact thing happens. I see what's going on. I see the crew members. I see, the magic that's happening. And all of a sudden it comes back to me. But I never really feel like, oh, I can't go in front of those people because they know me as a director and they're going to see me, as this. I don't really care. I don't. And if they judge you for that, then I don't want to be associated with people like that.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's kind of like people judging you for, your religion or the color of your skin. I was never taught that, growing up. And everybody has a story, and everybody has something that goes on in their heart. And the way to get to it is get to know who they are. And
Mm.
and when you do that, you find things out. you may not agree with people, and their political, favors, but still there's something else that's going on, and,
Yeah.
and I get inspired by being on the set.
Mm.
And I get inspired also. I'll see it, I meet some people that specialize like in a certain technical side. I have a friend of mine, his name is BJ McConnell, who started out as a grip, then became a camera operator and steady cam operator. And he's directing, and he just directed the Foo Fighters movie, and I'm just, I'm blown away that people don't see that in other people. Just because, I mean, like you guys, I'm sure you have some incredible talent. I don't look at you as just doing this. I see, because you know so much about the film industry with the questions and the research, that there's something else that's going on there, and I would love to know more. And I think that's the way we all should be, because I think it's a community. I think I said this in a post I put on Instagram about making 2021 the year of creativity, and inspire other people, and give someone a leg up, because the toes you're stepping on today could be the ass you're kissing tomorrow. And
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
you just gotta be good to people and figure it out. And you know what? If you help somebody and they don't do anything for you, so what? You did what you could, but there's always going to be somebody saying, "Hey, man, you did something for me. I want to pay back."
Yeah.
I love, man. Listen, man, that we at the end of each season, usually do a recap of giving advice, and I'm telling you, that's one of the segments we're going to use right there. That you hit it right on the head. Let me ask you this: as a writer, and of course as a director, it's common to watch your original vision subtly transform as compromises are made, maybe due to budgetary reasons or whatever it may be, whatever knickknacks may happen throughout the production. So, with that being said, is there a film that you're most proud of that you were able to capture that really capture what you really originally penned without all the compromises and changes being made?
Yeah, it would be, well, there's short films, but it would be Second Dance, it would be Hush, and 99 Problems. Because, people forget that when you go into production, like, when I did The Hatred, there were certain things that were changed during the course of the filmmaking that I didn't really, agree with. There were sometimes, budgetary concerns. There were sometimes a battle of the minds, and there were sometimes because of time. So, if I'm not Steven Spielberg or J.J. Abrams, I can't demand something and say, "Well, I need 2 extra weeks," and sometimes they can't either. But I think that the answer to that would be, if you're doing something, you got to be well prepared. You have to have a great team with you, and you better be organized, and have everything, have a shot list. I had a shot list and a storyboard, that I put up on the set, so we knew where we were going, and the crew knew it. So the guys who were running the crane, shout out to Hammer Cranes, when they were running the crane, they were already outside, ready to roll in the door. That to me is us all working like a well-oiled machine, instead of saying, come on, let's get these guys in here.
You brought up Quest for Queens, and I got a chance to check that out too. That was another one where, like I told you on the phone, the genre wasn't really up my alley, but then the tables get turned at the end, and that piqued my interest as well. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, as far as just what it was, what went into making that? I mean, one thing that really stood out to me was your attention to detail when, like, it was a testament to the fact that what the final product is going to look like while you're shooting it, because there was that added detail of when there was a green special effect that was done in post, but during production there was practical green lighting put on the face of the person, and that's like, it's a small thing, but like David Ames says, the little things,
The little things.
They're so big. Is that what it is? Something.
It's your
to
favorite
that-
film
to
of
that
all
effect.
time, David. You should know the quote.
But yeah, I just could you tell us a little bit about that production and where we might be able to catch that in the future?
As far as knowing those moments with visual effects, I got that from watching J.J. Abrams, and being, so detailed in what I know. He knew in his mind what this was going to look like but the atmosphere around it looked nothing like what it was going to look like,
Mhm.
end result. So the funny thing about Quest of Queens, the way that came out, I was coming home from working on something, and I was driving down Sunset Boulevard, and I said, I'm going to stop and get something to eat. So I stopped at this place called Chin Chin, and I went in, and the waitress came out, and we were talking, and I said, what do you do? And she said, well, I'm an actress. And I said, oh yeah, did you go to school? She said, yeah, I went to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. I said, funny, so did I. She said, in LA or New York? I said, New York. I said, what do are you working on anything? She said, no, I haven't had anything, but my friends and I do a podcast. I said, oh yeah, what is it? She says, well, we do this thing, and we sit around and we dress up, and we do the accents, and we play like a game like Dungeons and Dragons. And I said, well, who sees it? She says, well, nobody, it's a podcast. It's kind of like an exercise for actors. And I'm started thinking, and my crazy mind starts going, and I start thinking about something. And I said, give me your number. And I, wasn't hitting on her or anything. And I said, I think I have an idea. And I drove back from that up into the hills, back up to my house. And as I was there, I had the whole idea for Quest of Queens. And I started writing that night. And then I called her up, and another girl, blonde girl that was in it, Bethany and Michaela were the two girls. And I said, look, I have this idea, and I think it could work. And I told them, they said, yeah, let's do it. And then I called my friend, Mark Brown, who got me on the show of Avatar. And I said, Johnny's not available. I'd love for you to be the DP on this. He said, great. He said, what do you want? I said, I need to have green screen because I want to be in a castle. And I want I want the audience to think that it's like Game of Thrones in the beginning. I want them to be kind of like, oh my God. And then I want to punch them right in the face with what's going to happen at the end. And so he said to me, well, tell me about where it's going to go. And I said, I don't want to tell you that yet. I just want to surprise you. So I think we shot like at 9 hours in a garage. And then I had my visual effects guy who I had on The Hatred. I came in and I said to him, told him what I wanted, Alex Popoff. And I said, Alex, I need to have a castle, but I want it to go away. And I need to have this happen. And I need to have, a few other elements involved. He said, all right, just get me the footage and I'll put it in there. And I talked to my post-production supervisor, who was actually my post-production supervisor on The Hatred. And his name is Thomas. And I said, we need to put all these pieces together. And the team was just, everything was falling into place. And I really worked on it hard on post-production. That was where it all came in. But when you see the film, like I think the perfect example of what I wanted was exactly what happened to you, where you said, well, I wasn't really into it. And I looked at this and then it hit me. That's exactly what I wanted for this. So but what happens is this map has there's a special ability that this map has. And so now what happens is I said to myself, I want to do these episodes and make it sort of like, do you remember the series? It's escaping me now. Quantum Leap.
Oh yeah, Scott Bell.
All right. So that, and also a Twilight Zone again, of going back to that, but doing it in such a way where every episode of them going on an adventure reminds me of a movie. I have one that, and if you saw the movie that it reminds you of, you're going to say, oh my God, there's a hint of Enemy of the State. There's a hint of, Inglourious Bastards. There's all these little things that I said, I'm going to steal from those movies, but not so much that you say that's exactly like that,
Yeah.
So every time they go through a portal, they come out into a place that is not of this time, but is real in a sense. And it's actually a tribute to a film that I saw in the past.
Oh man,
So-
That's
Yeah.
listen. Anytime you could have just said Quantum Leap and I've been watching. Trust me. I'm glad you let him forward me this stuff because I'll definitely be checking out the 99 problems.
The 99 Problems is
Yeah, I'll definitely be checking out. So, but beyond 99 Problems and Quest for Queens, is there anything else that you like to share with us or the audience about what you got going on, what's coming up? Other than what you can talk about.
Well, I mean, my attorney, Shannon Hensley, she's setting a thing up with a new agent, and my plan is to get. I have like a stable of screenplays and ideas and things like that, and taking the three ideas of proof of concepts. I think I also sent you the other one, correct?
yeah.
Did you
yeah,
see that?
Yeah,
Which is
the Stranger
yeah.
Things esque. Yeah, it
Yeah.
is very cool.
So I want to get those off and get them going. But I have a feature called the Defiant One, which I want to do, and a number of other things. And my friends who are producing with me, Richard Joel, who's been helping me out and getting the groundwork for it. But we're always trying to make sure that we develop it properly before someone sees it. So I have a number of things that are going in the barrel, so to speak, to be rolling. And what I would love to do is, the business has changed so much, where marketing now is what you guys do, and you put it out there to everyone. And what I would love to do is, on the set, is have you guys actually come to the set and do your podcast from the set, and also interview people to see the inner workings of what's going on and give people a chance to say, wow, this is what I want. That's one of the things that I think we could do for Quest to Queens, because this company I produce is actually a fan-based production where the fans are actually producing the film. And so having you a part of that and giving word out just elevates, the process. So I think that we should discuss those things and get involved in that.
Definitely, I
Yeah,
think something
one
we'd
hundred
love to do.
percent keep in touch for sure. It's before we let you go, and once again, thank you very much for taking the time. It has been insightful and a pleasure.
It's like we're having a beer somewhere or something. It didn't even feel like an interview. So thank you for making it easy like that.
Exactly.
You've got so many cool things in the chamber. Where's the best place for people to follow you so that they are point blank range when they fire?
My Instagram is Mikehoe11. So I'm always putting things up, about what's coming or what's happening. There's also Twitter, which is at Mikey Kehoe. But I think what's important is not only me promoting myself, but promoting other people that are in the business and friends of mine. Like I said about BJ McConnell, and I promote these people because I think that they need to be heard. And the more we discuss things like that, in bringing up, like me bringing up you and what you're doing, it always helps. So people can follow me, but I would really like to see. I'd love to do this again with you, at any time,
Please,
and have that plan of you guys coming out on whether it's Quest of Queens or 99 Problems. I'd love to have you guys be part of that whole process.
Awesome.
We'd love to do it, and so let's definitely keep in touch. Is there any other parting words before we end the broadcast?
I think I think that what I would love is when you're ready, when this goes out, I want to promote it. I want to help you guys, and
thank you.
it's just such a refreshing moment for me, being involved. And I've done a number of podcasts, and they've all been good. This is to me was more of me being myself. Unfortunately, like I said, I can't see without these glasses, and not being able to find the ones that are clear. But
We should have made you feel more comfortable. We should have made you feel more comfortable.
Exactly.
There we go. There we go. All right, there we go. All right. Let's do it. Come on, David. You can do it. Come on. Get with the. There we go. Everybody's on the same page. All right.
Just a bunch of douchebags hanging out.
That's how we do it, baby.
I'm so happy that you reached out to me, and I feel fortunate, and I think that there's a lot of creativity coming out of what you're doing. So I wanna get involved.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
And again, thank you so much for taking time out of your day. Listen, you're a very genuine soul, and we wish you nothing but the best with your career. And hopefully, like I say, we'll keep this partnership going. It's a two-way street, and I appreciate everything you did today.
Thank you very
All right,
much.
thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you very much.
You too. Have a good night.
You too. Thank you.
You too. Good luck.
Thank you.
Why don't you subscribe? It'll last longer.